So, my boss assigned me to a new software development project yesterday evening, but I know nothing about technical aspects of an iOS development project. That's why I decided to improve my technical skills before meeting with the project owner. But the only problem is that that meeting is in an hour from now. Anyway, let's see what a project manager can learn about new technologies in an hour. If you are new to this channel, here you can learn all aspects of project management that work in the real world. It's the right place for new and experienced project managers. Here's an approach that worked for me really well. Remember that you as a project manager don't need in-depth technical skills. You need technical awareness. So you don't dive too deep into a topic. Instead, you scratch the surface around the area you need to familiarize yourself with. So let's start the clock and see what we can learn about iOS development. Okay, we'll start with a generic query like iOS development. Okay, and the first thing that I'll do is I'll skip the Apple's articles because I want to have refined knowledge from blog posts and articles from other vendors. So let's see, for example, I see IBM. Let's try this one. I see Amazon. I see Udemy, it's a course. What is a guide? Okay. Okay, let's try this one. So now I'll quickly read through these articles and take notes, and then I'll explain you and show you what I have found. Alright, let's move to the second article. Okay, the third article is more about career as an iOS developer, so I'll skip it. But I think I have a good understanding on what we're dealing with just to get started. So here are my findings. So first of all, the programming language. As I see, we can develop in two different languages, Objective-C or Swift. But from what I see here is that Objective-C is a bit older than Swift, and most probably Swift is a cutting-edge technology, so we need to decide on which language to choose. Maybe our developers know, maybe clients have a preference here. The second important thing that I discovered here is that Apple provides an extensive library of development kits and APIs, which means you don't need to develop everything from scratch on iPhone or iPad. Lots of UI elements, so user interface elements, lots of functionality that iPhone provides to you. You can easily tap into it by using these so-called SDKs, software development kits. And I've captured some names here so that I can find out more about them. They make sense because from technical perspective, I am like a user of iPhone for many years, so I kind of know what does this HomeKit means, what maybe some push kit means. I don't know what's foundation kit or replay kit and other stuff, but most probably if I do a bit of research, I'll find things that we will need. And the key here is to find all the elements that you can easily reuse rather than writing from scratch. Okay, just to give you an insight from the web development perspective. In the web world, there are not so much standardization and common frameworks that you can use. In most cases, you will have to develop everything from scratch or get a third-party library, which might have some licensing problems. It might not be compatible with other technologies and stuff like this. So in Apple world, in iOS development, there is a lot of standardization and things that we can use out of the box. Next, there are a lot of mentions about how to test the application. From one side, it seems like Apple requires a very rigorous, robust process of testing before submitting your application to App Store. That's why they provide actually a lot of capabilities to do your testing. You can do the testing in Xcode by your own developers with all the UI, with some kind of visualization of your application. Or you can use an app that they call Test Flight app. And it allows to spread the application before it's in the App Store. So you can give it to beta testers. And that's an important thing because we're developing a product here. And there might be a situation when we want to give our application for testing to actual users and get their feedback and maybe make some changes to the application before releasing it. But what bothers me most of all, and the thing that I do need to research during the time that I allocated for this research, is how to submit an application to App Store, because it feels like there is a whole process. At least I see a mention that there might be a review and it might be lengthy. It means that even there might be some iterations for this review. When Apple rejects our application, we do the changes, we submit it again and stuff like that. Okay, that's why now I'm going to go and look at the official Apple's documentation, and I will try to find some of the answers from this quick research. And we'll just scroll up, and here we go. And we landed iOS app dev tutorials. Okay. All right. It feels like it's a course or something for developers. All right, here's a good example. This resource is mostly for developers. I don't want to get in all the details of iOS development right now in specific topics or how to do it, how to use it. I want to scratch the surface. I want to learn everything about iOS development on a very thin layer without going deep into these areas. So I will try and go just to homepage of developer apple.com. And let's see what we can find here. So iOS 16, okay, macOS. Here, planning your app. Yeah, we do plan our app. Okay, if I'm new to development, Apple development ecosystem provides everything you need to bring incredible app to people around the world. Okay, I think we do iOS development here. All right. That's the kind of articles I want you to focus on. The marketing top-level articles that guide you to different topics, specific topics, but explains you how the technology works, what are the capabilities, kind of on marketing level, so that you can explain to your clients how can we use the iOS application for our needs. Okay, let's quickly review what we have here. Okay, before we move on, I want to stress out a few important things that I saw on this page. And first of all, I didn't read in detail all the paragraphs here. I just scanned to try to understand what's important, what's not. Maybe later I will come and read it again. For now, I discovered that Apple actually recommends to use Swift as the main programming language, and there are a lot of considerations on why it matters. I want to keep these notes for myself in case I need to explain it to the clients. Then I saw a lot of mentioning about that we have quite a lot of options. We can use different approaches on how to create our user interface, what technologies to use, and stuff like that. But at the same time, I also noticed that there are a lot of rules for compliance, that we need to take best practices in developing our application. And there are quite a lot of serious things here about collecting data, protecting this data, and a lot of things that Apple expects each application to comply with. So it means that all this documentation is actually our requirements. From one side, ideally a developer who is in this iOS development for some time should know all this at least at some level. But as a project manager, you should never assume that a developer knows all the non-technical aspects of the development process. For example, I'm quite sure that not everyone ever used the localization and internalization features of iOS. So if we need to do it, most probably it will be something new for our developer as well. Also, I saw a mention of a document called Human Interface Guidelines, and it feels like it describes all the user experience, user interface elements of iOS apps. So most probably it's another piece of requirement for us, but we'll need to discover it in more details. Alright, our next stop is this portal on distributing your app and how we should prepare for this. It's purely a project management stuff, because most probably there are a lot of processes and workflows that we need to comply with, and we saw a lot of documentation here. So if we know about these requirements at the start of the project, we can plan for them. So if it takes a lot of time to actually get the app from development environment and put it into App Store, we should know about it. Okay, again, I'll review this article on my own and I'll point out the interesting things that I'll find here. Okay, here's what I found during this quick review. First of all, I was correct. We will have to spend extra efforts to get the application to App Store. It's not about just sending for approval. We also need to create a product page, which requires some descriptions, screenshots, previews, keywords, and stuff like that. So someone will have to design all of that. Okay, the next stuff comes from actual technical awareness. You don't need technical skills or understanding of what this technology is all about. So they say we need to optimize for iOS 16, and I assume it's the latest version of iOS right now. But from what I know about Apple, they create these new versions every year, and there are a lot of updates to it during the year. What I'm thinking as a project manager is, okay, when does the version 17 come out? Because it will take a few months for us to develop our application, maybe another month to get it actually released, because there might be some promotions attached to it and stuff like that. So should we be one step ahead and try to optimize for the next iOS version so that we don't need to do it afterwards? The same goes for this Xcode 14.1 version. So it means that we need to use the latest stable Xcode for our development, but there is a good chance that there will be 14.2 or maybe 15th version of Xcode. So these are 2 points that we should keep an eye on, or at least discover if there are updates coming out, so that we will be ahead of the curve and take action before it hits us, especially if they will want to release their updates by the time we want to go to App Store and release our application. Okay, and now we are moving to app review guidelines. There is a separate page that describes what we need to do to prepare for review. And the first thing that I see here is that there are at least 3 major pieces of guidelines, separate pages with lots of information, most probably for us to consume in order to prepare for review. For now, let's just take a quick glance on what it is, these review guidelines and human interface design guidelines, and maybe these copyrights. Okay, just take a look at the sheer amount of information that they have here, and we have to comply with all this stuff. For For sure, not everything applies to us, because we're not doing, maybe we're doing for kids, by the way, but no physical harm, performance, beta testing, metadata, and stuff like that. So there are like, I don't know how many pages of text here, but it's all requirements. You see, just by doing this exploration of the industry and technology, we discovered a lot of requirements to our product, even without talking with our clients who will provide us the requirements to the product itself. Okay, let's take a look at human interface guidelines. It seems like another big chunk of requirements, so designing. All right. Foundations. All right, so again, as you can see, there is a lot of information here. I won't even try to consume it right now. There is a small chance that our iOS developer, just by the sheer length of experience, will know some of these areas and will just incorporate them into his development process. But as I said, as a project manager, you should never assume such things. You need to control them. So keep in mind that I will have to somehow test the knowledge of our developers and UI designers on these basic concepts so that we comply with the requirements from Apple. Okay, here's the deal. I did this research, I still have about maybe 20-30 minutes that I can allocate here. So I will do the next. I will dedicate this time to actually reading these review guidelines, because I think it's the most important part for me as a project manager, so that I can communicate this information to the team. Also, if I have time, I will review these human interface guidelines, because in the software development process, I'm quite close to the discussion of the user interface and designs with our graphic artists and UI designers, so it's coming soon. I want to have some knowledge of UI design patterns described here and maybe terminology, so that we speak the same language. So here are my takeaways at the end of this research. First of all, I learned many terms I'll need further down the road. Second, Apple provides a lot of software development kits that speed up development, therefore you don't need to use third-party libraries or invent the wheel. Third, Apple has a lot of requirements for an application, therefore human interface guidelines, review guidelines, and other documentation become requirements documentation for us. And my motto here is don't assume anything. So that's why I won't assume that iOS developer and assigned UI UX designer will know all these requirements from Apple. It means that I'll have to dedicate much time somewhere further down the road to analyze these documents. Fourth, there is a review process. You can pass it quickly if you follow the guidelines, so it makes sense to invest more time into the requirements and quality assurance. Fifth, Apple has a tool for beta testing, so it might be handy for our clients as they will develop the product, not just one version of the application. Okay, that's only the technical side of the project. Let's also take a look at what GURPS actually mean. And just like that, let's ask, what is GURPS? Okay, Wikipedia. That's an abbreviation. Generic Universal Rolling Play System is a tabletop rolling... Oh, dice is nice. Rolling play game design... in any game setting. It was created okay, first published. Okay, what is... Let maybe see quickly. Okay, history, development... Oh, okay. What we're dealing with is some different version of Dungeons and Dragons, and most probably you saw it recently in the Stranger Things series. Okay, let's take a look at official resources now. So here's the CG Games. Ooh, okay. Okay, here's the first thing that I see here. This site is quite old and it comes from 80s or maybe 90s. What it tells me that the actual fan base of this game, it doesn't care. They don't care about these visuals of this site, they care about the game. And what it says, more than 1.5 million copies are printed. So there's quite a lot of people playing this game. Okay, one thing that catches my eye is these books, or whatever it GURPS on demand means. Let's take a look what it means. Okay, basic set, characters, campaign. Okay, Goosebin. Okay, here's what I just read. There are two books that describe the rules. One book for players and one for someone called GM. I assume it's a person who leads the game. But what's important here is that these two books combined are almost 600 pages long. So it means the rules that describe this game is 600 pages of printed books. So why does it matter? Because if we're creating something for this game set, it means that requirements to our application is somewhere in those two books. And hopefully our client knows all those rules and can provide us all the requirements to the product. Okay, here's another thing that I haven't seen in many sites lately, but they have a forum. Let's take a look what's happening out there. So, okay, they have quite a large forum. There are a lot of things happening here. Oh yeah, let's find, okay, here's GURPS. What I want to see right now in this forum is to understand how active this community is. Okay, look at this. Some threads have 500,000 views and 2,500 replies in them. Oh my god. Oh, you see this? I don't know what it means, but it has 4 million views and 6,000 comments or answers in that thread. And it was updated recently. Oh, actually, everything that on this first page is like 1 or 2 days old. Okay, here's what I see, and it's important. Think about the recent Lord of the Rings show. They spent lots of money on the show, but it failed miserably. Why? Producers didn't address the needs of hardcore fans. As a result, they got mediocre reviews all over the place compared, for example, to the House of Dragons show. Based on what I saw on the client's website, our application has a similar challenge. This GURPS app is an exciting but very niched idea, so from one side it's a small fan base, but they are loyal and they are very picky. We will have to pay close attention to details even for the first version of the application. It means someone will have to have deep knowledge of all those rules. And on top of that, there are tons of books and rules, and I have no idea how we'll organize business acceptance testing. And I believe it's an overall project risk. We are a software development vendor, and at the same time, Soft Assistant is a vendor too, so they are not too close to the game as well. So as you see, we'll need someone who knows all ins and outs of these rules throughout the whole project. Okay, we're running out of time. So here's the thing. I will have to review all these documentation by Apple, maybe review few things on the group side as well, because as a project manager I will have to control all of this. And most of the things that I learned so far, they kind of outside of the development of the application itself. We'll have to comply with a lot of rules, we'll have to follow the workflow of uploading and submitting the application, getting it through the reviews and stuff like that. So I'll dedicate more time during the next few weeks to read through as much as I can, and I will for sure discuss it with our UI designer, with our iOS developer, and I will bring up few points to the Delana, our product owner. Again, that's the way you as a project manager develop your technical skills. You don't go deep into the details of each technology, rather you scratch the surface of all the technology to understand its capabilities and limitations. Okay, if you don't want to miss our very first conversation about this product with our project owner, like this video and maybe subscribe so that YouTube notifies you when it's going live. And I recommend that you watch these videos next because they will make you a better project manager. See you later, bye bye.